Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. I hope you are all doing well. Hey, Philippa, how are you doing today? Glad you're here with us today. I am working with noise overhead, so hopefully it won't be too bad, but they are still working on the roof. Hey, Michelle, how are you doing today? So Tally is not amused. Hi, Sue. But we are excited because now we can start to really see things going up outside. Sorry, you're going to have the tickle in my throat all day too. So it is what it is. Let's flip my cameras around. Nope, we want the other way. There we go. All righty. So this is the same stuff I was working on last week, my terrariums, or the beginnings of. There's a lot of steps to go. But I thought instead of, even though they need a lot more French knots, I thought I would do some drizzles today and maybe some cast on stitch. We will see. But let's just pick one. Let's see, I could maybe make you a little closer. Let's see what happens if I do that. I guess that's a little better. Well, you probably don't need to see every little bit of Tally dog hair, right? Because it's on everything. Oh, dental appointment, ick. I've got one coming up in a couple weeks. Not looking forward to it, but I don't know that anybody ever really does. I am just randomly gonna come up. Ooh, this one's a. So of course I thought I'd checked everything out ahead of time and I hadn't, but oh well. Hey Joanne, how are you doing? And how is that lovely garden of yours growing? I started taking some cuttings from some various things in the yard because Tally, we wanted to let her have a good time in the yard. So we're pretty much, giving up the idea of having anything looking pristine there, but I can do it in the front yard. Oh my goodness. Did I make the wrong choice here? I can't believe it. These needles don't want to. Wow. Let's see if we can start a hole. Okay, that one will work. Goodness. I thought this was going to be an easy thing, and it's not. And of course, wouldn't you know it, the stuff that I decided to stick my big needle in, lately it's just been one thing after another. Yay, doing well, and so is the garden. Nice. I swear. Yeah, I guess I do this on my lap and I have a pillow that's okay to put holes in. So I'm just going to do drizzle. It shouldn't be. I do this elsewhere, but this needle, I wanted a fat needle because I wanted a fat drizzle and I wanted a taller fat drizzle. Normally I might use something that's a little too short. Hey, Phyllis, welcome back. She says, I'm back for more chit chat and hammering. Yeah, I know. And, there's three guys, they're working all over the place. But it's really cool. They took down, so some of you might have seen in other pictures, I've got this bank of windows right here. And for 10 years, we've had this, there was an overhang, so it gave us shade. But then we had like this beam that stretched across and a post right in the center, and the sun sets right there. And it just sort of really messed with the view. And yesterday they took all that down. So we're going to get another shaded overhang, but the beam's going to be out of place and there's not going to be any post in the center. And I am super excited about that. So this is just my drizzle. Once you bring your yarn up or your thread or whatever you're working in, some people prefer to do this sorts of things with the smaller, finer threads like embroidery floss, but not me. And I'm just casting it on. So I'm taking the yarn here, I'm wrapping it around my fingers and looping it over the thing, over the needle. Boy, yeah, I'm gonna be distracted, but you guys are used to that with me, right? Because even, right now I can use the excuse there's construction. I don't know what I'm going to use for an excuse when it's done. Michelle says, I'm not working on anything right now, but I hope to start a stitched tree tonight. Oh, trees are cool. Sue said it will be so worth the noise and nerves when it's all done. Yeah, poor Tally. She's not regressed, but she's pretty shut down in the mornings now because she anticipates, I think, that they're coming. She does not want to eat breakfast in the morning. She wants to wait until my husband gets home from running out and getting coffee. And then she'll, finally, it's like 2 hours past her normal breakfast time. She doesn't want to do Kongs in the morning anymore. I feel really bad for her. She is over it. But then when they go home, then she's her happy self. And we go out in the yard a few times a day, and that always helps. But yeah, it's definitely changing the looks of the house, which is going to be awesome. I wasn't paying attention, and I did not make these quite as snug as I wanted. So yesterday, at the end of the day, we went around the house with the contractor, double checking all the windows, because most of the windows are going to get replaced. And so we went over, wow, what do I keep doing? All right, let's do this the easy way. It's one reason I do a lot of French knots when I am doing a live, is because I can make them messed up and it doesn't matter nearly as much. It doesn't really matter with the drizzle. I just would like to be a little better at it. You saw the building pics, Michelle? Yeah, it's a process. People are like, oh, it doesn't take that long to, replace the roof, but we're not just replacing the roof. We're literally raising the roof. Sue, it is. It's like we're building a whole new house, because it's just going to be so different. Outside the studio, there's space for a small deck, just a small little chunk of a deck where I can put a chair and a table, and all the plants that I have outside there I can enjoy. And that will have like a 5-foot overhang for shade, which I didn't have before. The back deck, the huge back deck, is going to be gone, and we'll just have a smaller, much more manageable deck. Hey, Barbara, how are you doing today? Yeah, so this is fiddly, but it's work that has to get done. All right, I'm not going to tie that off until I do the other one. Yep, that's about the height I wanted. I wanted a couple tall ones, and then I got to do a starter hole. Postpone soul collage for next week. Well, glad you're doing well. Hello to the lurkers, whomever you might be. So now we're trying to contemplate what kind of a shade structure we want to put down in the lower yard. But before we can do that, we have to remove the brick patio. They're just loose bricks that are all uneven, and the dog and I trip over them. But it's really hard, because I'm not visual enough to be able to anticipate how a lot of this is going to look. So we have to go over it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Then I go looking online to try and find something close to it. Like they're changing something around the garage door that took me forever to understand. Barbara said, I'm doing little strips of embroidery on a new crazy quilt block. Linda and I are both making blocks. How many do you have now? Hopefully you guys can keep it up enough that you'll have enough for a quilt. I think it's really cool that you're both doing them. Whoops. Nope, thought I split the thread. So I wonder if I have anything else it's the fat needles. I used to have the best needle for doing drizzles. And it wasn't anything that I had bought. It was just, I don't know, might have came as a, like in a Goodwill. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. And I lost it somehow in the house. I mean, what a surprise. And I just haven't found anything, because it was like half the size of this one, but it was fat and perfect. Hey, Kat. Oh, you're still on your first blocks each? Okay. That's all right. You're taking your time, putting all your love into them. Yeah, it might work. Kat says, I'm here, still recovering slow. I miss embroidery, hoping to get my strength back soon, but time will tell. Starting physical therapy on Monday. Yay. Listen to your physical therapist, but don't overdo anything. It's so easy when you start going. I love my PT and trainer. Sorry, still trying to find a good needle, but no, I'll worry about that another time. But I overdid it on, well, I didn't overdo it. There's a machine, the knee extension or leg extension machine. I just can't use. Kind of did a strain on my quadricep. So now I feel like I'm, not hobbling, but I'm sore. I'm really sore all the time. And I really hate that. Because I've gotten used to only being the kind of sore you get from, having a good workout. All right, so I got a tall one there, but I think this is going to be kind of fiddly. So I'm going to do a couple changes here. Okay, I'm going to take this out of the hoop because then I can fold things around. Oh, I can move the water before I dump it all over everything. I do love these Nerge hoops because they keep everything nice and tight. And there are some times where you really need that. Okay, I'm going to come to a different yarn. And it's really not what I want. We'll try this one and see. Hey, Andrea, are you home from your vacation? Maybe? All right, we'll do just a short one. Well, I know I have to double it because I do want the thickness. Ooh, that might not go through. We'll see. Kat says, I'm going to be careful. I'm nervous about them pushing me too hard. I know my limits pretty well with fibromyalgia. I'm willing to push it, but I need them to trust me when I need breaks. Yes, you have to advocate for yourself. Many of us will tell you the same thing. You absolutely have to. Sue said, I made a couple of slow stitch pieces to contribute to a quilt project Artie Farty Annie is doing. Oh, neat. It's not like you don't have enough scraps around to work on some little random blocks, right, Sue? Sue is about fabric like I am about fibers. I think when you have any kind of a chronic illness or disease, you become very aware of your body's limits, and you need to be the one in charge of what you can and cannot do. Wow. This is also very, very thick felt. Goodness. Did I come up with it? I thought I took the thinner needle, but maybe I didn't. Let's see. Yeah. No, that is the same thickness. That is why. Shoot. Dang, dang, dang. I did not think this out very well. Let's see. Andrea said she is home. She's had a nice month in France. All right. I don't think both of these will go through. They might. Let's try. We will not know until we try. No, it's not the pliers that I need. Because instead of pliers, I use these little silicone thimbles, and they're really great for pulling things. I'm mad that I can't find the needle that I used to use all the time. And I always forget that the wool mat is not as forgiving for sticking my needle into. I'm just all over the place. Let me see this here. This has potential. You know what? I think we're going to do that one. It's a little thicker because the size of the needle, the thickness of the needle is going to affect the thickness of the drizzle. It's not super tall, so this is one of the smaller ones. I think I use this in one of the needles I use for bullions. I'm just going to have to keep buying like random, really cheap needles collections and see if I can get one, because it's not got a size on it. It doesn't correspond to any of your typical needle sizes. So it had to have been like a craft needle or something, but it was just, I use this one for bullions. Andrea Magpie Sue is our Sue Brown. She just finally went over to her YouTube account. So I'm not sure how far that sticks. Okay, there's still a little bit of room. I can still make it taller. Well, that's, I wished I'd paid attention to how long I made the yarn. You know, one thing this project, the construction project is teaching me is you got to roll with everything. I have no idea where Terry is today. I know she's been in busy make mode, so she gets in the zone like so many of us, and time goes by. Same thing with Sandy. All right, let's see how it looks with this. Oh, can I get it through here? This is yes. All right, if I use the thinner yarn and this needle. And so what Sue was asking about pliers was pulling it through. If it was hard, you can use pliers. But these little things are just really handy for holding on to the needle, and they're much easier for me to manipulate than pliers. Let's see. Wow, I am batting 1,000 on these today. That's not bad, but it's got a mess at the bottom that I don't even know how I did, so we'll have to fix that. Oh, it's because I didn't pull my yarn all the way up to my knot. Andrea said, I did not know whether to sign in as Andrea or Birdie Goes Crafting tonight. I could not make up my mind. Well, you have that dual personality thing going. All right. Yeah, I like that color. I like both of these colors for the drizzles. All right, let's see. We won't make it really tall. This will just be a clump of small somethings. I wish I had the patience that Miss Cat has to do the stump work. And I maybe when I get a little bit better organized with Open Studios, I'll do some stump work stuff. But I made a big decision that I was not going to redo some of my older work. I was going to take it out of the hoops and frame it. And I decided, no, they were my early Wildscape ideas. They're not the style, not completely the style I do now. So I'm not going to redo them. And I am excited about my white piece, but I'm waiting for my replacement. I ordered one of the new Lowry floor stands. I have one Lowry floor stand. Oh my, that is loud. But this new one will let me go really, really big, but they sent me the wrong legs. They sent me the legs for a smaller one, and I wanted the largest one. You guys still hear me over everything? Hopefully. Yes, it will give me more time for the terrariums. And I figured out something different about the way I want to construct the terrarium, so I'm kind of excited about that. But I need to get this big stand so I can get the white piece going in the big stand so that I have the island clear, because I need the island for everything else. Yeah, it's not pleasant. Yeah. Wow. This may be a very short live today. I know what they're doing, and they're going to be doing that for a while. So, yikes. I can put some background music on and not talk until they're done. We can try that and see if that would be any better. Let's see. Music is around here somewhere. Okay, I'll pause that for right now, and then no. Okay, what about when they're just hammering? Do you want me to go back to just the music when they're hammering or only when they're doing that drill? You guys let me know. Oh, Sandy's embroidering on paper again. I've been working on my big wormy piece, the bullions with all the brown, the big piece with the brown bullions. And I've decided to embrace what so many people call the worms. And that's just kind of what we're going with. It's sort of like the earth is regenerating. Sue says, more power to you, Sandy. Paper's too flimsy for me to stitch on much. Okay, so if the hammering's okay, then we'll do this. And then when they bring out the other really bad stuff, I'll just swap over to the music. You know, it's whoever said live streams weren't a challenge did not know. Sandy says she doubles my paper. That way it doesn't rip. I've stitched on watercolor paper, but the other thin paper wouldn't do it for me. What I'm hoping is that they'll go to lunch like around 12:30 and we'll have a half an hour of quiet. Yeah, you can imagine what it's like for Tally. She is just not happy with any of this. And I don't blame her. I mean, it's just not fun for any of us. You know, and my husband's in his meetings for work and concentrating on, you know, doing his job. So we make sure Tally gets lots of other adventures and gets very spoiled. Sandy said, I'm actually embroidering on a digital to really bring out the dried flowers that are on the page. So I added a piece of paper behind it to thicken it. Ooh. Phyllis said, that sounds like fun, Sandy. I want to try that. I have some handmade paper. Do you think that would work? That would work. Phyllis, the thing to remember is the smaller needle that you can use when you're doing paper embroidery is the best, because if you make something with too big of a hole, then it's going to rip when you go from stitch to stitch. Sandy, do you have any videos showing you embroidering on paper? Kat wants to know, do you work with stabilizers? I'm guessing that's for Sandy. That's so cool, Sandy. Yeah, Sue's right. You make those digitals look so good. Sandy, you have handmade paper. You have that big roll of yellow stuff. That's all handmade paper. I know you, unless you gave it all away already, because that's what it was sent for. Sue says, go for it, Phyllis. Sandy said, I also just use 2 strands of embroidery floss. That way the thread isn't too thick. Yep. Kat says, also with paper embroidery, I've seen people use pre-made holes. That's another good tip. Sandy said, I just use glue stick and book page that nobody's going to see. Yep. You have it happening. Okay, I'm going to do one more drizzle and then maybe I'll do some cast on stitch. We'll get some different variety happening. When I'm at this stage of any kind of a base, whether it's for a terrarium or a framed piece, I'm always at how is this going to come together? It's never going to look right. And I'm just very happy that over the years, I've finally figured out it's okay to just keep going forward and not be sure where it's going to end up, and know that somehow I'm going to find a way to pull it all together. Usually I have that confidence. We'll see. All right, this one should be a little happier coming up through the felt. She says, ha, 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 ha. All right, where's the other? There we go. Make sure I actually bring the knot all the way up, because when I forget that, then stuff goes weird. Oh, because I came up right through a previous knot. You know, there are things you're going to do only when you're on camera, and oh well. Again, we're rolling with it, but let's make sure this time we're not going through anything else. I look at the giant mess on the back of it as just additional padding. Sue says, yes, we have to let our work go through the ugly adolescent stage. Yep. And it can get pretty gnarly. But then you have to remember, this is all you. No, you don't have to show it to anybody if you don't want to. You don't have to put it up for sale. You don't have to give it to anybody. You can just, carry through on the process and have fun with the process. Which I think for about 6 months, I think I forgot about that. I'd been really good with it. And then I think I forgot about that. So I'm kind of feel like I'm back on track again. And I keep testing to see how much needle is in the things. That tells me how much farther how big of a drizzle I can go. Sandy says the bullion knots are so cool on this yarrow that I'm working on. Yay. Andrea said, life has been throwing a few curveballs, so I did not get the chance to embroider as I wish, but I did get to thrift. I found a 44 centimeter tall bobbin, which was used in a haberdashery store. I just bought it. Oh, wow. Those are cool looking. Are you going to make something that you can store on it, or what are you going to do with it? Kat says, I love that on your bio on Instagram, you call yourself a recovering perfectionist. Yes, and I think I will be in recovery for the rest of my life because it's so easy to fall into these traps. I was in my weekly art meeting yesterday, and we did like a show and tell day, and I was saying how I had finally reached the point where I was not going to think anymore about how am I going to get this particular, D-rings and wires on this particular piece in case it goes to a show or in case it goes to a gallery. It's like, no, I'm just going to make the work, and then I'm going to decide where it goes from there. I'm not thinking about shows and exhibitions right now. I'm strictly thinking about finishing all the pieces. I have finally told myself I really do not want to have as many pieces in process as I do. And in fact, when my big Lowry stand comes, I may change my setup so that I can work on one piece for multiple weeks with you guys. Because I think one of the reasons I do have a lot of unfinished pieces is I keep starting something new for the live streams. Sandy said, Andrea, I don't mind that it's going to be too late to get that bobbin here for my birthday. It's okay for you to ship it now. Sandy has a birthday coming up on Saturday. Kat says, Andrea, I'd love to see a picture of it. Andrea said, I will put it on Facebook. It's a shop display item. I could not resist it. I would just love to look at all the stuff in your studio because you've got so many cool finds. Sue said, I actually have more than one quilt in process at the moment. That's rare for me. Oh, we're back to the drilling. I'm going to give you guys some music. Okay, so I realized I read Kat's comment and had the mic still muted. Yes, sometimes our creativity needs multiple projects to flip between. That way, if we get stuck, we can pivot. And here's my plan. I don't know if I can actually pull it off, but my plan is I've got my wildscapes in green, so the naturey stuff. I've got my whites and neutrals, which is another path I love to work in. And then I have my colors. If I have one going in each of those, I can pivot between all of those, and then maybe little things like my terrariums and the forest fragments, which is another project. And that gives me 5 options of places to play, as well as building components. And that would be easier than having 17 projects that are like at the halfway point, which is where I am right now. Sandy said, I can't even do more than one element at a time in my journals that I'm making. My mind would explode if I was doing more than one journal at a time. Wait a minute. Is it Andrea's birthday too? Because Sandy's birthday is Saturday. Is Andrea's birthday coming up? Sandy says, Kat, I wouldn't just pivot. I would be spinning and spinning. Sandy says, thanks for the birthday wishes. Big Daddy is going to take me to see How to Train Your Dragon. Of course, that's the only thing playing in our theater right now. It's a small town, so you get what you pay for. Sue said, both quilts are very near the end. One just needs border strips. I want to make a few more blocks for the other one. Cool. Okay, I'm going to do a cast on stitch. And how thin do I want it? I'm going to double it just because I think it's going to look a little better. Will I? Yeah, I think it's going to be a little better because this is a real fine lace yarn. Sandy said, this time when I watch the movie, How to Train Your Dragon, I'm going to take a notebook. Maybe it will help me on how to train my husband after 44 years. I think there's still hope. Sandy, have a lovely day, said Andrea. Sue said, you're going to be a kid again on your birthday. Sandy said, soon I'll be a year older than Susan Taylor Brown for 10 days, and then we'll be the same age again. That's what I thought, Andrea. I thought we had already had your birthday, but Kat said, I think that's a great plan. Yeah, I think in my head it feels good. I spent some time brainstorming what each of those 3 paths meant to me, and there's a category name for each of them. All right, so I've got some lace weight yarn. And let's see. I might just do it single. Kat says, I am in between embroidery projects right now. I'm wanting feedback on my terrariums before I make more of them. Do you want to post them in the Facebook group? You could also, if you feel like that's too big of a group, you could do just a few test people. You could make a private group on Instagram, a private chat group where there's only a few people in it. Sorry, I'm just tying my knot. That's why my hands aren't there. And share pictures then. Because I do the same thing with needing that kind of feedback from people. Okay, I'm going to come over to one that doesn't have anything tall in the way. I'm just going to come over here. Kat says, this is the less fun side of the business, but I'm glad for the opportunity to try and share my art with more people. I want to make prints, stickers, needle minders. That's cool. Be sure to share your shop name with us after the launch, Kat. Yes, definitely. Yeah, if you want help on doing the Instagram thing, my art group did that I meet with every week, which is a Visionary Art Collective, which is a great group. And let's see, how am I going to do this one? Yeah, I'm going to do it like this. it's just really nice to have a private running chat going on Instagram. Kat says, we'll do, that's Sue Brown. It will most likely be in the beginning of October. Oh, Barbara, that's a good point. Kat, Barbara says, if we're in the Facebook group, it's really easy to create a small interest group in Facebook Messenger. Yeah, you can do that way too. All right, for those of you that like the viney things that I do, here's how I do it. So I've brought my threads up and I've got a skinny needle because I want some skinny vines. And it's like making a drizzle, except you go back and forth. So I'm going to cast on one stitch and then I'm going to go to the other hand and cast on in the opposite way. And when you cast on in the same direction, you get that twist that gives you the drizzle. When you alternate directions, you're going to get the vine. And I go back and forth because I've really been not very productive lately. Both of my shoulders are really bothering me because I did way too much one of the days that they were really making a lot of noise and I just got lost in making components. And I have basically screwed up both of my shoulders again. So it's like I can make a few things and then I need to swap again. Barbara says, if you try to personally message anyone else in the Facebook group within Messenger, even if you're not friends, the names will come up and then you can add them to your list. That is a cool tip. So Kat, if that doesn't make sense, you can DM me later and we can go over it, but that's another good idea. And if you want to hop on Zoom with a few people, let me know. I'm happy to facilitate something like that for you. Because getting that feedback it's really important before you invest more time and money into supplies, doing something like that. In writing, we used to call it a critique group. And always when you're doing a drizzle or a cast on stitch, make sure you leave a little bit more than the length of your, what's on your needle, because they are going to squish down. So I can get a little bit more room, but you need to have some room to be able to tie things off. All right. And now, I guess they're not going to lunch at 12:30. Doggone it. So I could have used even more yarn, make this one even longer, but I like the vines in varying lengths. And now, so this one wasn't long enough to get very many curves in it, but it is a start. So lace weight yarn is really nice for this, or all 6 strands of embroidery floss is about the same. Hey, Terry. Oh, had an important phone call. Well, I'm glad that you are here now. All right. Let me hydrate a little bit. Isn't that one cool, Kat? Let's see. Should I do that one? Okay, I'll do that one again, and then I'm going to show you another fun stitch. I'm going to do a video with all of these, but I'm just not there yet. I'll do one more of these. I've heard various names for this. I call it the double cast on because I'm casting on. This is lace weight yarn. So you know how we like the fingering weight, Kat? This is just a little bit thinner than the fingering weight. Barbara said, I've actually loved writers' critique groups in the past, hugely valuable, but I wouldn't want other voices talking about my art before it's done. I'm afraid it would drown out the art itself. I hear you on that. I mean, critique groups were invaluable to me when I was writing. That said, I do love chat groups who are following someone's prompts at the same time. Yeah, and it's good to know that about yourself. I won't share at certain stages. All right, I'm going to do one more of these and then I'll have enough time to show you one other stitch that you might enjoy. Now I'm doing short ones in here, but I will come back later and I've got a skinny needle that's about twice as long as this one. This one's 6 inches. I have a 10-inch skinny needle. Yeah, lace weight. And you get a lot of yarn. I mean, you get a ton of yarn on a lace weight. So if you have a longer needle, of course, you're going to get a longer vine. So I'm just, it's like when I was writing, I always had to have a title for what I was working on. Now, it might not stay that way, but I really needed to have a working title. And I'm finding the same thing about art. I kind of need a working title for an art piece. And then I can, you know, when it's done and I really know it better. I'm sorry, this is cast on stitch, not double cast on. The other one I'm going to show you is what I learned as a double cast on. It almost looks like an octopus arm. It could be. Sue said self-knowledge can be hard to acquire, but it is so valuable. Yes, because a lot of the times we're acquiring it in difficult situations that we don't like, you know, we don't like what happened, but that's the important knowledge. Kat said, right, Barbara, I agree. I'm at the point in my terrariums where I have about a dozen of them complete, and I want to see which elements work and which don't before I invest more in them. Kat, I think we should hop on Zoom. Pick some people that you want to get some opinions from, and I'll set up a Zoom for you when you're feeling up to it. I know you're still in recovery mode, but happy to do that. Or if you know, you can also do what Barbara was saying with the Facebook Messenger and, you know, set up a group. Say you want to have a group that you can discuss this about, and you can send them some pictures. That might be easier while you're recovering, but let us help you. You can bounce ideas off. And, you know, when you're sharing your work in progress, or when you need something like that, like, you know, again, from critique group days, you tell them what you want. Sometimes I would go to critique group and I would say, okay, you know, I don't know if this character is coming across as realistic. I need some help on that, or motivation, or, you know, have some questions maybe, because otherwise people don't know what to say. And it's just like, oh, well, that's nice. I enjoyed it. Sandy said it would be really scary to let anybody inside my head. I'm scared enough inside there, but get other people in there to help me. Oh, mercy. I couldn't afford to pay for their therapy too. All right, so see, we're starting to pile up. So I'll get my longer needle later, and I'll do some really tall ones so that it kind of is winding around. I could have gone farther, but I want to show you this other stitch. Okay, we'll do it on another small one. Yeah, there you go. Get prepared with photos and questions. And I'm going to take a lot of yarn, because this is essentially going to become 4. So oh, this is way more than I need probably, but yeah, let's cut this in half. Might be a short one, but that's okay. It'll be easier. Joanne says, love your sense of humor, Sandy. Yeah, I think she doesn't want to do video stuff right now while she's still recovering. This way she can conserve her strength. So I think, you know, having your pictures and your questions and set that up. Okay, so I've got 2 strands here, but what I'm really, if I was doing this with thicker yarn, I would be just doing 1. But the idea is I want to have enough that this is going to be my center of my knot right there. And I have 2 needles. Okay, I have 2 long needles that are the same thickness. All right, so first I've got to get my knot through, and I only need 1 needle for that. That was a little too exciting. Let's try that again. Okay. I'm sorry if this is kind of confusing with 4 strands, but it looks better when it's a little thicker. Okay. So now that first one through. You're going to be a pain, aren't you? You're going to be a pain. Ah! Okay, there we go. All right, so picture these as just two strands of yarn. Yeah, I kind of twisted them there. It's not going to matter at the bottom. Okay, now you can do it with just one needle, but it's a little bit easier, I have found, to keep them from slipping when I do it with 2 needles the same size. Okay, so I've got them stuck in there side by side. Now I'm going to do like I did my vine, but because I've got 2 threads, it's not going to twist. It's sort of like a weaving thing. So I'm still just doing casting on with one side. Then I'm going to pick up the other thread and go the other way. I might not have made these long enough for you to be able to see this, but hopefully. Yes, you could laugh or you could cry. You're right, Terry. And what's neat about this one is if you do a long one, like maybe 3 or 4 inches long, and then you can kind of curve it, twist it, tack it down on the other end in an interesting way, or you can do them short and it doesn't come to a point like a woven picot. This is what I call a double cast on, because you're casting on with 2 threads. So you've got twice the thread. So you're basically doing the same thing as the vines, but instead of just using a single thread, which causes that wonderful little curve, you'll see, got to slide this up because the yarn's so short. Just, no, I'm going over both needles. Just a second, I'll show you. So I've got both needles here, and it's creating a flat. When I do the videos on these, I'll have examples. Yes, treating it as one needle. And you can do it like, sometimes I'll do it with a really fat needle and I can control it a little bit better. Because otherwise, if I have just one, the circular shape of the needle, it just kind of twists back and forth. And I want this to be flat. Okay, I'm going to get a decent size one out of here. I can never, know for sure how long these are going to be. Hey, there's Tanya. All right, so now I have these 2. You have an option. You can put them through 2 different needles. You can put them through 1 needle. It doesn't matter. Because this felt is so thick and is being persnickety. Okay, I should know better. I can't thread a needle with my left hand. And like I said, I'm going to do the videos on these stitches where I promise it'll be better to see. All right, so both of those are threaded. I'll pull one through. I'm going to pull the other through. And now you have a completely different shape. So you could bunch these together like a woven picot. If you do a really long one, it's almost like a buttonhole bar. So you do a long one, you could have it going over a log, over a rock. Isn't that cool? It is very cool, and I love it. And, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with the woven picot, which I hate doing, you know, on the fabric. I do it on a piece of cardboard first. And so you can group these together. Sometimes I've gotten lucky and I've been able to manipulate it so it gets a little point, but I don't worry about it. And when I have, so I didn't pull the threads tight, so I kind of have a loose end here. That just tells me this is one. I'm just going to tack it down like that, and that just makes something very interesting. All right, should I do another one like that? See if we can make a long one. I got 8 minutes. It would make a great caterpillar in fuzzy yarn. Yes, it would. All right, let's see. Let's see how fast I can. So this, the cast on stitch, so using a single thread and casting off casting in opposite directions gives you this. Double cast on gives you this. Kat said, I agree. I love the way a woven picot looks, but I haven't enjoyed stitching them so far. Do you know the trick? Because I know you watch a lot of the same people I do, about using, like I use some foam core board. I've got to do that video too. That's the only way I can do them anymore. They frustrate the heck out of me. All right, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use. It's really funny. People say it looks like a caterpillar because the brown bullions, everybody's like, they're worms, they're worms. It's like, that's fine. They can be worms. I don't care. Button shank comes to mind. That could be it too. Yes. Heat knocked you. How hot is it in Scotland today? And you're going to tell me in Celsius and I'm not going to know, but tell me anyways. Sue says, Mercy, I think I'll stick to the simple. Okay, Kat, I will motivate me. Okay. If you don't see it in the next few weeks, I've got to get these videos out because at least I know I can make some money on AdSense. All right, let's do another one over here. It's the only way I can do them anymore, Kat, because I get so frustrated. I love the way these people that are so expert at them. Just got to get the first one up. Make those little clusters of leaves. They look gorgeous together, but all I do is get ticked off. All right. We're going to ignore this little, let's cut this little thing off. No, those aren't really very sharp, but maybe we can get the fuzzy out of the way. It's going to be covered up. All right. Got my 2 needles. And again, that's just for stability. It helps keep the yarns from slip sliding all over the place. 1. The only thing with the woven picot is I am horrible at trying to guesstimate how much yarn you need. So I waste a lot of yarn. Well, it's not waste. I use it for something else. Okay. All right. So 1 yarn in one hand, 1 yarn in the other hand. That's all that is. Okay. So you could use 2 strands, 4 strands, whatever. The other thing that's nice about using 2 needles is it does make it easier to pull it through. I'm just going to cast on with this hand. Let's get this guy out of the way. And this hand. That's all I'm doing. And you can get really fast at doing this. Yep, I save all my little scraps. Nothing gets tossed. According to Google, Scotland is 65 degrees. Oh, that would be bliss here. Absolute bliss. Barbara says, I think it's time to take a break. I'm trying to thread the pointy end of my needle. I tried that the other day too. I got a really sharp stick in the finger with that. Michelle says, I still can't do those fancy stitches, but I haven't tried too hard. You know, that's the way I felt when I first started doing them, Michelle. And I know it was because I would do it once. I would look up the directions. I would follow the videos. I'd do it once. And I realized it only worked for me to get imprinted in my brain when I did a whole bunch of them. So when you decide you need a fancy stitch, that's what you'll do, is you'll just do a whole bunch of them. All right, you guys are motivating me to do this. There's so many video tutorials out there on stitches, but I've got a whole series in mind. It's just, it's Susan's way. It's, you've got to power through as a recovering perfectionist and not worry about all that other crap that, people, I didn't go to the Royal School of Needlework. I would be terrified to do anything like that. Oh, yay. Kat says French knots are her favorites now because she practiced. All right. I think that's enough. And you can see that one's a lot longer. I could probably go more, but I'm getting to the end of my time here. Thread my needle once. Thread my needle twice. Okay. And there we have it. Whoops. There's a longer one. So you can imagine, to get a really long one, you're going to need a long needle, but they do sell those. And I just think it's just a really cool thing. Sandy says nothing gets tossed. Just put it in a bag and send it to me. Barbara said I went back to your twig stitch tutorial and was able to follow it on this piece. Oh, cool. Kat says, I still struggle with bullions getting tangled sometimes, even though I've had quite a bit of practice. Yeah, and there are a couple ways to do bullions, and some people do it one way that I can't wrap my brain around, so I do my way. Tanya said where she's at, between 80 and 86, apparently. Sue said, I'd forgotten about the twig stitch, might have to go back. All right, so that was a lot of variety today. But I will get the tutorials up, and please, message me if you guys have any questions, okay? And I'll try and give you guys a hand. Sandy says, Barbara, we are so lucky to have those videos to go back to. This morning, I went back and watched a billion knots, and now I'm making a billion bullions. All right, everybody, I am going to sign off. Thanks for bearing with me through all the loud noises overhead. They will get done eventually, pretty soon. Tanya said, depends on who you ask. And no, not as hot as the islands or LA, but I've lived in comfy 65 for so long that 80 kicks my arse. Yep. All right, everybody. Yes, I will enjoy their quiet while they're at lunch. I'm going to sit down and read for a little bit. Talk to everybody later. Have a great week, weekend, week, whatever it is. And Kat, hit me up if you need some help putting together some kind of a focus group for your beautiful terrariums. All right. Bye-bye now. See y'all later.